Oh, what's that pest, Elizabeth? If only we had an essential oil that would help us with these bloody mosquitoes. Well, actually, let's talk about that this week on Fellowship in Essential Oils. Let's explore Citronella. How are you?
Well, so I'm a bit conflicted. I mean, how does a bee priestess feel about insect repellent essential oils? It's an interesting one, but yeah, by far the best insect repellent seems to be citronella, but obviously it has other properties too. So I'm excited to get into this to hear things that you've picked up as well as things I found.
Very much so. And the first thing I'm going to come in for the defense of citronella essential oil. If you have a good quality citronella essential oil, it doesn't smell like those crappy candles you buy at the hardware store or the home store that repels insects. It actually, for me, is actually one of my favorite lemon smelling essential oils. And there is a big range of lemon essential oils or those that have that fragrance. So I love it. Um, yeah, it's great for insect repelling. But it's got a few other uses as well, hasn't it?
It does, and I agree. I think it's a beautiful fragrance oil. I think the other thing to be aware of in terms of the fragrance is quite often we talk about how monoterpenes deteriorate in lemon oil and things like that. In citronella, it's the aldehydes that deteriorate. And although they're not quite so problematic in terms of skin sensitivity, they do have similar concerns, but not so much so as monoterpenes. When aldehydes start to go, the brightness goes out of the oil. And so it's one that I would definitely say put on your subscription to renew every now and then. I renew mine every 9 months just because I think that as soon as the brightness goes out of it, it's just not so sunshiny as it was before. But I think one of the key things that citronella does is make us feel brighter and sunnier, and so we don't want to lose that if we can help it. But it does lots of other things as well. I think the most interesting thing I think about citronella is, in case people don't know, it's a grass. So it's a close relative to lemongrass and to palmarosa. Where lemongrass is a really important food, there's no edible properties of citronella. Nobody eats it, so why grow it? Well, fundamentally, the most important thing is how popular it is within fragrances, so perfume. But how it grows is they'll grow one row of lemongrass, row of citronella, one row of lemongrass, row of citronella. Because it's so insect repellent and gets rid of so many rodents and pests, it stops loads of creatures nibbling at their important lemongrass, which is obviously their primary crop. Um, so I think that's fascinating that we talk about, oh, has it got insect repellent qualities, but actually that's the whole point of the crop, that it does that.
Mm.
But because it grows in those areas, particularly Thailand, Indonesia, Java, then because it's prolific, it's found its way into their indigenous medicine too. So, particularly for high fevers, very good for bringing down temperatures, although I'm very against using essential oils to reduce temperatures because you'll often see reports about how temperatures can be related to somebody having a seizure, so like little children with seizures, but actually it's not the temperature itself that is the problem. It's the sudden change in temperature that does it. So if you're using essential oils to bring down the temperature, you're actually inducing that actual problem itself. So it's not really something that I advocate unless things are really, really problematic, and then you would just use the tiniest amount to do it on a compress, a whole hot and cold compresses, cool compresses actually on the forehead or on the body. So temperature is an important one. It's very good for the digestive system. There's quite a lot of research about how it's antispasmodic to the digestive system, so useful in abdominal massages if you've got IBS. And I think that potentially that might be something to do with the emotional side, which we'll talk about in a minute. Very strong antifungal abilities. So things like particularly Candida albicans, lots of essential oils, in particular geranium, are also good for this. And it's the geraniol in it that does that. So if you've got IBS, have a look at some nice sort of floral fragranced essential oils, blend those together. Very, very sorry for Candida. Um, Important to say that we're going into a nasty realm now, but if you've got sort of yeast infections and things like that, please don't put them into the delicate areas. Remember that the oils absorb through the skin and into the bloodstream, so just putting it onto the pelvis is very good, or the inside of the thighs, because it's the actual volatiles, the evaporation of the oils that are going to do the job. If you put it on the delicate genital membranes, boy, are you going to know about it. So do not do that. But very good for any kinds of candida or fungal infections that way, as well as Aspergillus niger. So that's black mold. So you could wipe the walls down with it. Also, cinnamon, cinnamaldehyde, very good. So those two blend together very well for that too. But also found to be anti-nociceptive and also anti-inflammatory, especially when used in terms if you've got like a fungal infection on the hand or on the skin that is hurting. You go in it from three different levels. It's antifungal, anti-nociceptic, so it stops the pain signaling, but also anti-inflammatory. But it is one of those oils that I would really say be careful where the skin's broken. So again, always remember it's going through the skin and into the bloodstream. So stay clear of the broken area and go round it. Remember that those volatiles will proliferate through, and you're staying away from the skin breakage. And also very good for the lymphatic system. So it's not one that we cite very often. Normally we'd talk about things like cypress, fennel, juniper, but also citronella. So lovely to kind of bring a brightness to a blend, although usually you would put grapefruit in, and the scent profiles are so similar that if you put both in, they smell a bit horrible. But one or the other is good. But I think probably the most important aspect of citronella is its effect on mood. It's what was interesting actually. We've talked about insect repellent abilities, and we kind of say that a bit offhandedly. But if you think that mosquitoes are the biggest killer in the world, anything that can repel a mosquito in certain places of the world is really important. And it's been found that it will repel 44 different species of um, mosquito. So that's a lot. But I'll talk more specifically about that in a minute. But if we're going to use it as an insect repellent, we're going to be spraying it onto ourselves, or using it in a cream instantly is the better way to do it. So we will be inhaling it. So therefore, there's been research done into, well, if we're going to put this onto our skin and we are inhaling it, what is the effect on the mood and the mental faculties? And they found that citronella actually decreases alpha wave activity. So what that means is and it also reduces heart rate and respiratory rate. So we have this evidence of the body becoming more relaxed, but alpha wave activation shows more able to concentrate. So that it's called relaxed concentrate profile, which means that very good for things like if you're trying to revise, if you want to be creative, if you want to get a sort of musical performance, anywhere where you are relaxed but expressive, it will invoke that. And so interesting that if you put these things onto the skin to get rid of a gnat, you're going to have that effect as well. The insect repellent side, I really want to address because it's quite complicated in that, first of all, it is by far the best of the essential oils in terms of uh, repelling insects, full stop. But in trials, not as effective as DEET. So we still haven't found a good alternative to that. And I mean, it's one thing if you're just going on holiday and you want to get rid of midges in Wales, they're just annoying. But if you're going to somewhere where you could get malaria, then that becomes an important thing, that you're not just relying on essential oils, because that's dangerous. Don't put your children in harm's way doing that. One of the reasons why it's not so effective, and this is only one, but one of them is that because an essential oil, a plant makes an essential oil to be volatile, to evaporate into the air, then because they're like, it's quite a top note, it'll evaporate, but it's gone really quickly. So it's only going to protect you for around about an hour. And actually, for that hour, it does give 90% protection against Culex mosquitoes. But after that hour, it decreases very, very quickly. But interestingly, they found that they can make it last a bit longer if you add vanilla into it. So if you mix vanilla essential oil with citronella, you're going to have a much better effect. But even then, we're making it as long as 2 hours. But it's amazing how many different ways it affects the creatures, the little buggies, because not only does it repel them, but it says no, don't feed. Well, actually, that's the important thing. If it wants to feed, then it's going to bite, and I should advocate for the poor mosquito. It's only pregnant females that want blood. So as long as she's going, I don't feel like eating off you, that's fine. That's going to stop the bite. But also, and perhaps more seriously, it says no, you don't want to lay your eggs here. So not necessarily on you, but remember, it's going to be protecting the area around you, so you're not going to have them laid close to you. So it is really important stuff. I'm going to keep talking because otherwise we'll lose the thread, but I'm aware that I'm overtaking. But from the bee priestess point of view, there's some really good stuff and some really bad stuff. The important thing is that it repels bees. So if you don't like bees, then yeah, it's still going to be helpful, as well as obviously wasps and stuff like that. But some of the research that's been done is because of neonicotinoids, which are the plant sprays that are there, and the pesticides that they're spraying with crops with, that are killing bees. It's proven now that it is contributing to colony collapse. So the bad stuff is this research is kind of so that they can continue using neonicotinoids, even though they're atrocious. But what they've proven is if they have spray citronella on a crop that has neonicotinoids on, then the bees won't go near it. So there's good stuff and bad stuff there. But also, just ridiculous. So on one hand, they're doing this to try and keep on using this pesticide, but they've also proven that citronella is a very good herbicide and pesticide in its own right. So if you've got weeds, and I haven't tested this, I have to say, so I don't know how effective it is, but it seems to stop the germination of grass seeds and certain broadleaf weeds from occurring. So this sort of is a long projection of where the pesticides and herbicides industry are trying to go, to kind of hopefully, they're never going to get rid of neonicotinoids. It's too big an industry now. It's worth too much money. But as people become better at organic farming and hybrid farmings, where they're just like, well, I just want to get rid of some stuff, then citronella is becoming very useful. And what they're trying to do is engineer it in what's called a nano encapsulation. So that's tiny, tiny droplets in water so that water distills. So they should be able to eventually spray with citronella rather than pesticides. But that's a long way away, and there's an awful lot of legal battles and political wranglings to go. But it's one of the most important pieces of technology that's happening in essential oils at the moment.
A couple of things I'll add to that. From a physical point of view, where we've found it really helpful is a bit of liver support for liver detoxification. Just applying it to the soles of the feet each night with some fractionated coconut oil or a carrier of some kind to help in that way. But another one, probably, this is slightly physical, more also emotional support, but helping with bringing back appetite. So if someone doesn't is losing their appetite, I guess because of that beautiful sunshiny aroma, diffusing this for someone who's lost their appetite, maybe to do with, they've been sick, maybe it's to do with an eating disorder. And as we go deeper into holistic aspects, that may kind of get fleshed out a bit more, but it can be really great for that as well. The question I did want to throw at you, though, Liz, is you listed a ream of great benefits for it physically. When it comes to insect repellents, citronella is number one. With all these other things that we've been talking about, I would actually use it for appetite in what's the opposite to suppressant? I can't think of the word. Appetite.
Increases.
Yeah, or
Stimulant.
stimulator. Yep,
Yeah.
I'd use it number one for that and for insect repellent. Is there anything else where you think, yes, citronella belongs near the front in what we've talked about so far today?
I was on the emotional side, and I agree actually about the appetite stimulant, increasant, whatever the word would be. There's a nice little trial actually done by some nurses in Thailand in a little village, and they were saying that most of their toddlers were not thriving for whatever reason. They don't really give much indication as to why, but they did a little tummy massage with abdominal massage the little toddlers, and they increased all of their appetite.
Mm.
Um, and but what's interesting is if you look at it from a point of view of rodent trials are the opposite. So if rodents inhale citronella, their appetite completely disappears, and they tend not to eat so much, and all of their cholesterol settles down, so it has completely opposite effects. So that's quite interesting, like word of advice of people who go, well, this trial disproved this in a rodent, so therefore it's true in a human. The opposite is definitely true in this case. But I think I would say no, I can't think of another thing where I would say this is absolutely the best thing that you can have, and there's no other essential oil that is better. But it would definitely be up there in terms of mood. If somebody is showing signs of being melancholy or struggling to concentrate or is feeling overwhelmed, and the darkness just keeps creeping in, there's lots of essential oils that you can use. And I really am an advocate for going, this day use this oil, I'll use this oil, I'll use this oil when you're in that kind of mood, just so that your body's going, oh, more sunshine, more sunshine. And I
Mm.
think it should be in that set, but otherwise physically, no, not really.
Well, let's have a little bit of a look at it kind of more on an emotional and a holistic level. Where I love this, and I think this is where a lot of people really kind of maybe perk up to citronella, is you've heard me say time and time again, what the oil does physically, it does metaphysically. So what it does is it repels mosquitoes, bloodsuckers, things that drain us on a physical level. So what's it going to be amazing for on that energetic level? The same thing, energetic vampires. So in this world, I believe you can group things into two categories: angels and vampires. Now, this can be people, but it can also be different activities. Like I know for me, a vampire for me is, watching television. My energy drops and I'm useless for the rest of the day if the television goes on. But particularly, I find citronella really great for helping you with energy vampires that are people that drain your life. And I've got one of my customers in the Middle East. She's in a situation where She has a lot to do with her in-laws because her partner is off working all the time, and her in-laws just drain the life out of her. And I think she goes through a bottle of citronella a month just because she finds she diffuses it, she mists it, she'll pop it on her hands and run it through her aura order just to lift her energy and not to let people that are trying to drain your energy to allow that to happen, to be in control of that. It's really, really great to, if you work in a workplace, as we get towards the holiday season, maybe you've got, Thanksgiving dinners or Christmas dinners or New Year's Eve, and you're around people that, you have to be around, but you don't really want to be around. A beautiful one to lean into in that way. So that's one of the ways holistically that I really love to use citronella for guarding you against energy vampires and for empaths. I love juniper berry for helping empaths to not take on or not to hold on the energy of, other people's emotions. But I love this for actually like you said, it's a blade, it's a grass, it's a sword. And we talked about this with palmerose and lemongrass. It cuts away and slices away those energy connections and those energy cords that could possibly threaten to drain the energy from you.
Yeah, I think absolutely correct. And I would have described it very slightly differently. So I'm gonna say it because I think it adds to what you say. I think if you're the kind of person that attracts those kind of people, and if you come from a background of or domestic violence or kind of trauma within your family, and you have that in your aura, those people see it, and they're very much like, you're nice, I like you, and in they come like that mosquito, the pregnant mosquito. So I agree that it is tremendous for clearing your aura. And I would have said angel spray as well, just this whole thing of, I don't like to say raising vibration because I think that it's like, a spiritual ascension. But I think this cleaning, purifying of almost going, I'm sorry, I don't do that anymore, and stopping that attraction. Um, I I used to be a scout leader, and there used to be a lovely lad come to scouts who just looked like an angel. He had blonde hair and the palest skin, and you would step out the bus, and every midge would be like, "Oh, Stephen's here! Feast, 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 feast!" And he'd be covered in these huge, great big things. And who knows what it was about him? He must just have tasted lovely, but the rest of us didn't get touched. And it would put, I mean, poor kid. He used to be in agony, but I always think of it in terms of that, as in, what something about his sweetness they enjoyed. Well, let's get rid of that sweetness then.
Mm, mm. Yeah. The other thing that kind of with this disconnecting idea of citronella, I think it's a really great one for helping people that need to practice non-attachment. Now, when I'm talking about non-attachment, that's not where we get to the point where like we don't care about anything. It's not that, but it's about letting go or releasing expectations of how other people will act or how things will turn out. Of things that we have no control over. Just going, well, let's just see how that pans out, and not allowing the stress of that as well. As you've been speaking, I was kind of thinking, we always lean into if we'd ask what are the happy oils, I'm sure 99 out of 100 people will say the citruses. But I find they just kind of provide happiness, unconditional happiness. Whereas I find with citronella, what it's actually giving you is the tools to stop things that hinder our happiness actually impacting us. And so it's a great one kind of as a more empowered way of enshrining and protecting your happiness from getting rid of people that would drain it, from helping you to not attach and get caught in things that would drain and drag your vital energy, your happiness, and so on. Really powerful in that way as well. Does that make sense?
It does, and I think that from my point of view, I would talk about it in terms of creative obstacles.
Mm.
I'm sure I've said it before that my sister is incredibly creative to the point that she can pick up a needle and thread and just make something magnificent, and give her a pen and she'll just draw something incredible. And as a child, I found it very disempowering. that my parents would go, "That's nice, Elizabeth. Oh, look what Natasha's done! Isn't that fantastic?" And it wasn't favoritism. It was true that hers was just magnificent. That was her natural ability, and that could do nothing but uh, like rub off on me. And we had a period of time where we didn't really have any contact with each other, and that was a painful time. It was a painful fallout, but what it allowed was my creative spark to go, well, it doesn't matter, nobody's going to compare it with Tasha's stuff anyway. And so I learned to look after that creative spark better. And I think that Citronella is very good at going, just give it a go. It doesn't matter, just pick up the paintbrush, have a go. Because there is, for a lot of people, there's this feeling of, but it's not very good. Well, who cares? Who cares? We've got so much evidence now of the benefits to mental health of this creativity. I've just been going, I'm just going to do it because it makes me feel nice, and I think it's helpful to just have it in a diffuser. If the kids are doing a bit of drawing or something like that, or a bit of colouring, I think you'll find that they're much less inhibited because the mental brain's going, it's not very good. The subconscious is going, but it's joyful, let's have a go.
Yeah, I love that. I guess in summary, we could probably say that it helps to detach from outcomes, whether that be the outcomes of what you achieve or how someone else is going to behave or how a project will come. And it's not that you don't care, it's not that you don't give it your best, but it's more just that not getting pulled into that emotional anguish that can come. Being from a leaf, I attribute that to being an air element one. And so it takes us out of that heart sometimes and out of the emotional storm, just to be a bit more like a sword, a bit more practical and like, okay, that's what's happening. I'm going to not allow anything to drain my happiness and my life force, which I think is really vital as well. So, yeah, a really powerful spiritual oil. So anyone that does work with oil spiritually, this is one you definitely need to have in your toolkit, I think.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't necessarily refer to it as spiritual, although I can see where you come from. But I think mental. I think it's definitely a good mental oil. Yeah.
Mm. I want to jump back to a point you made earlier that you said that you every 9 months like to replace your citronella. Now, you've dropped hints throughout the last 70 plus episodes that we've done that your citruses, I think, you replace every 6 months. Now you've dropped this bomb that scandal, that you replace your citronella every 9 months. I'm fascinated to know, and I'm sure other people were interested as well, are there other oils that are on that kind of quick rotation that you like to replace, every few months, once a year, or whatever that may be?
There's lots because it's not just about deterioration. It's about menopause brain. so so on the big vending site that we don't describe, that's like a rainforest, I've got lots of them on subscribing 6 months, 9 months, and consequently I've never have any money because I forget that it's but 6 months I have lemon, orange, grapefruit, mandarin, bergamot, lime. So there's my six. And then on 9 months, lemongrass, citronella, and also geranium and myrrh. And they're not for deterioration. It's just how long a bottle of oil lasts in my house so that I'm never without it. And eucalyptus.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. Other people might find that useful for just how they treat their oils as well. Now, when it comes to chakras, normally we're talking about the main seven. I'm going to introduce another chakra that I'm not too sure if I've talked about on this podcast, known as the spleen chakra. Now, this is one of the minor chakras within the body. It's located on the left-hand side, just under the lower ribs. It resonates probably, if you're watching the video, the color that Liz is wearing right now, that kind of chartreuse yellow-green, would be the color of the spleen chakra. Now, in pranic healing, they talk a lot about the spleen chakra, and this is said to be where life force enters and exits the body, that flow of just vital life force, prana or chi. You'll hear it referred to in different terms. So when this chakra is balanced, there's a good flow of that. When it's underactive, there's obviously a limitation in that. And if it's overactive, it can be a bit too inconsistent. And you may actually find that you're getting, bursts of energy and then really feeling exhausted and up and down from that kind of life force aspect as well. Citronella is a really beautiful one to work with for this spleen chakra, for helping you to maintain that energy and that life force coming into you. So this is not to do with this is independent, I guess, of your diet. If you're eating sugary and having sugar ups and downs and all different things like that, that's a different thing. But from a pranic or from a life force type of way, if you find your life force goes up and down, then looking at what's happening there, and maybe citronella could be a really powerful tool for that one.
I never heard of that, but that feels absolutely right to me. I would have said solar plexus, but the energy does feel like it sits higher than solar plexus. So that's really interesting. Thank you for that.
My pleasure. And I guess, the solar plexus as well is to do with that personal empowerment and not giving your power away to people. So that would make sense as well, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Astrologically, where would you place it?
I think it's probably a Leo, to be honest. The anything that's that sunshiny feels like Leo to me. But
Mm.
I don't know, planetary wise, I don't know. Sun. Any more than that, I'm stuck. What
Yeah, okay.
your
I
thoughts?
tend to lean more towards the Gemini and the Mercury aspect, I guess, for that kind of um, awareness. I guess I like that Gemini energy and that Mercury energy. They often call Geminis the Peter Pan of the zodiac. They never grow up. They always feel sprightly. They seem to be young beyond their years. Age doesn't have that draining effect that it may on others, and I find Citronella kind of supports that as well. And of course, that mercurial energy of always being lively, always being alert, not letting things drain you, I think resonates really, really beautiful as well. There may be a small argument for Chiron, for working with Chiron, especially when you're looking at your Chiron wound and not allowing, especially during a Chiron retrograde, not allowing that wound to constantly drain you. Of course, if people are like, what's a Chiron wound? Chiron is another astrological body in our solar system, based on where it was when you were born, one of the 12 zodiac signs. That will give an indication of a core wound that probably happened to you when you were younger. It may be around self-worth, it may be around attention, it may be around vulnerability and those types of things. And if we don't deal with that, it's a wound that will keep on coming up and it'll be like our Achilles heel. It'll keep on tripping us up time and time again, especially when times are going well. Citronella is a really great one for when you go, okay, I know what my wound is. When that kind of demon raises its ugly head, I can use that to go, I'm not going to fall down that trap. I'm going to diffuse it. I'm going to meditate with it. I'm even going to anoint it on my spleen chakra to help me kind of stay on track and focus on what I want to stay focused on and not be drained down into that negativity and that darkness.
I'm pretty sure Mum says Gemini in her book, actually, in the Garden of Eden. Now you say that.
Hmm.
I think all that sounds useful and intelligent to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a little bit about citronella. As we said, it's a great insect repellent. It's great for that appetite and lifting the mood and that type of thing as well. But I really think anyone who is struggling with controlling their own energy, I think that's where it really kind of sings out. Controlling your own energy, and I'm not talking about your physical energy, but more your energetic energy. If you feel that, like you said, you tend to be vulnerable in a negative way where people kind of prey on you, or you find that you're a dumping ground, or just maybe you're saying to yourself, why do I keep attracting these type of people into my life? Citronella might be one to start building a relationship with to see, how can I stop scratching around with the chickens and start flying with the eagles in that way as well? So I think any kind of energetic protection, and preserving your energy and staying as bubbly and bright as you want to, so you don't just have a good appetite for food, but you have a great appetite for life. That's how I would kind of wrap citronella up in a tiny little chartreuse coloured bow.
I think all of that. I think that's absolutely right. I think the most important aspect, apart from the insect repellent, is, as you say, pest repellent in life. I
Yeah.
think, and whether that would be other physical entities or the pests in your head. You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
it's unrelated, but I just read some things that really made me laugh the other day, and I thought it was really funny. So this woman had put this meme that said, "I have when I see chocolate, I have two voices in my head that speak to me. The one says, 'Go on, eat it.' The other one goes, 'What she said.'" Like, I was like, yeah, yeah, that's me. So I think that it's worth like thinking, right? Well, if that voice has given up and she's like, "Well, you're so lazy," it might be oil worth trying to just say, "Well, come on, you're supposed to be doing something else here."
I love it. I love it. Well, we could keep talking about citronella, but now I've got some chocolate in the pantry that I'm going to go attack. So we'll be back very, very soon with another episode of Fellowship in Essential Oils. Until then, take care and blessed be.
Bye bye.